I've made over $20 million working the last 6 years. I always tell people, like, you have to become second to God.
Jacob Levinrad,
Chief Executive Officer of the Jacob Levinrad brand. From willingly dropping out of high school to pursue his passion for business to now making multi-millions per year.
Jacob is determined to live his life to the fullest and help others reach their potentials as well.
And it's not for everyone. You can work faster and harder than anyone. The odds of you succeeding and hitting your goals are extremely high. If you aren't built to win, there's nothing I can tell someone. There's nothing that you're going to do. It's in everyone's hands, man. It's like it's right there, but people just can't grab it. They're getting distracted.
Why did you get kicked out?
I kind of had the path of either try to stick it through in the school or get kicked out and stay out. Because I could say I made $1 million, people would still respect me. And I was like, making money so easy. It's not easy. It's easy for you. Copy hard. Copycat, but copy the right cat. You guys, I'd rather a 90% chance of success than 50. It's not even a question on if you do well, it's when.
Welcome to an exclusive episode of Attractive Mindset. And listen, today's guest is, his story starting off at a young age, he got into an industry that is very difficult for a lot of people, but I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about his story. But first, I want to shout out The Move Miami. We're here on an exclusive episode of Attractive Mindset, set up by Drew's The Move and Jay Taylor. And listen, Brendan Boyd is the one who got us all in this building. This is a live podcast. There's an actual live audience. You can't see them, but trust me, we are about to go crazy. And so let me introduce Jacob Levinrad.
Thank you, man. Pleasure to be here. And yeah, shout out to everyone who put this together. It's great.
Absolutely. Man, listen, I read your bio and, the organic way or the strategic way would be to dive into the bio, but I want to have an authentic conversation with you.
Fuck yeah.
And so tell me, why did you get kicked out?
Yeah, school. I think everyone has a love-hate relationship with school. Some people are more with it. And for me, funny enough, I left school like hardcore middle of 10th grade. Which is quite, I think some people just straight up do not believe it. But I loved school. I think I was a decent kid, but I was just kind of mixed up with the wrong people, especially 9th and 10th grade. And it wasn't working. Funny enough, I'm writing like a mini book right now, and I was literally on that chapter. And I was saying in it how it was like I kind of had the path of either try to stick it through in the school, get kicked out and switch schools, or get kicked out and stay out. And I think the stars just aligned to stay out. And things were working out once I left. So I was like, fuck it. My mom saw the money coming in and the rest is history.
Wow. So money was enough for your parents to accept the fact that you didn't want to go back to school.
Yeah. I think what's funny is I think in college and later on in life, it becomes way more accepted to take semesters off. But in high school, no one talks about taking a semester off. So for me, my thing with my mother was I said I wanted to have $50,000 saved in a semester. I got close to that. I got to like 25, 30 grand. But that was enough. Yeah. I think she saw that I was surviving without school.
This is high school.
Yeah. I was 16.
50,000. Hold on. Where are you from?
I grew up in like mid Florida, Deerfield Beach area.
Deerfield Beach, Florida. At 16 years old, you have $50,000.
I had some issues, especially my early teenage years. I had a cease and desist from Apple at 17. I had some ups and downs, especially my first few years. I think my first few years, I didn't think laws existed.
Wow.
I thought I could just like be free because I was a minor, and that thankfully didn't bite me in the ass too hard, but it got close. But yeah, man, I think I've been very money hungry. I ran like a underground gambling ring at 13 and 14 in my high school. Like I've always been very money fixated. I think that comes from like my blood. My dad, he was like always hustling. He's an immigrant. He was in South Africa for a lot of his life. His dad was an inventor in South Africa.
Wow.
So for me, I think it's in my DNA.
Damn. Okay. So what did you decide to do exclusively after you got kicked out that really scaled you to the next level?
Yeah, they had me on a contract in 10th grade. I had to get good grades and not party. Failed them both. And at that point, it was mid-finals week. I just said, screw it, and I left. Initially, I genuinely had no plan. I think some people throw out this picturesque, like, I figured it out. I became a millionaire as a teenager. I didn't. I made like a few $1 million those next few years, but I definitely did not save even like 90% of it.
Where did it go?
We can get 17, 18s where it got crazy. But right when I left, the first thing I was trying is literally like anything I could. I was doing, I mean, earlier when I was 16, I was buying and selling golf carts off Craigslist. Bought and sold 3 of them. I drove a few of them around, which was like very lit at 15. From there, man, it started with penny stock trading. I tried that from Ricky Gutierrez. And I was just on YouTube, man, every day, like just trying to figure life out. I really looked up to Casey Neistat at the time. I mean, I'm 16. So at the same time too, I don't have much pressure. My initial way I was making a bit of money was I was just hustling. Like my older brother, he was doing some stuff with like social media. I was like kind of his bitch, like any little work he had. Obviously I have no expenses, so it's very easy to save. Tried penny stock trading. I tried e-commerce a bit, and I sold like fake AirPods. And that hit really well. I think that you can either be really good at something or approach something that not a lot of people are doing. And either way it can work. So I think for me, no one was trying to sell these fake AirPods, and it was such a good market. Everyone wants AirPods, and I was selling, my whole thing was like 80% off earpods.
Damn.
And I was so shit at it, for lack of better words. Like I sucked, but even though I sucked so bad, it still worked a bit to where I had hope. And I started doing that. I went really hard on that. And this is end of 2018, early 2019. And dude, that first, like the 12-month period after me dropping out with specifically like AirPods, I sold like well over, I think it was 1.2, 1.3 million in top line sales. So like I made $1 million as a teen, which is cool. And this is like before I moved out. This is before I even like could move out. I wasn't even 18 yet. Barely kept any of it. I mean, I was such a degenerate. I bought like a Rolex. I bought a BMW. So I'm like, I'm feeling good. I'm learning a lot, which is something I look back at. I don't regret anything.
Well, what are your parents saying? You know, because my parents, when I'm that age,
yeah, they're on. I mean, I think I got lucky. So one important variable is my parents, very like ideal situation, because they weren't meant to be, but they got divorced when I was pretty young.
Okay.
So I was mainly raised and grew up with my mother. I think she just believed in me. Even now, later this year, funny enough, I'm buying like not an insane plane. I'm not going to be like the guy that sits here like I'm buying a private jet, but I'm about to get my pilot's license. Probably gonna buy like $1 million plane. And even that, like telling her stuff like that, I think she always has and always does, like just really believe in me. It's ideal, but I think she just trusted it, and she had a feeling it would work, and it did.
So the question that I want to ask you is, do you feel like your relationship with your mom is more of a mother-son relationship or a friend kind of relationship?
I think definitely a mother-son relationship.
Okay.
I had really early in my life, I moved schools a lot. So that messed with my, I think, elementary school time. I don't know about you guys, if anyone can think back to like your childhood, like moving schools isn't ideal. You have to make new friends. So I think I was always very close to my mom. I trust her, and she trusts me. Like she does. She can take she has access to like half my bank accounts. I love it. I just sent her to London first class. Like I love my mom to death. And honestly, I attribute a lot of my success to her. I think she's made me feel very loved, which is something a lot of people don't have. And I see that, and I'm really grateful for that.
And so you mentioned the divorce of your parents. You know, was that a traumatic point for you, or?
I think, I was happy with it, bro. Honestly, really? Which is crazy to say.
That is crazy to say.
That's the thing. Like, one thing about me, man, I don't sugarcoat stuff.
Good.
Like, I'm a very like straight up person. I think it was ideal they got divorced. And like at the same time now, like I'm blessed to say I'm like a multimillionaire. So I think everything happens for a reason. And I'm very happy with where I'm at in life.
And you're obviously closer with your mom than your dad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still pretty close to my dad. Different relationship.
Okay. And how does he feel? You know, you mentioned a lot of the connection with your mom, you flying her out.
Yeah.
Do you have that kind of same connection with him?
I have a good relationship with my dad. Yeah. It's different for sure. I think for both my mom and my dad, they don't fully see it, you know?
Okay.
Like this year between like every business now, and I've really, at all the businesses I have, I very like honestly say I don't own the majority of a few of them, but between everything, they'll easily do over like 8 figures top line this year. So I think a lot of it doesn't resonate with them, which I've been okay with. One thing that hurt me a lot in my early days is I think my mom and dad, and at least for me, I really wanted to make them proud. And it sucked that I feel like they didn't see it. Like I could say like I made $1 million, but they wouldn't believe it almost.
Now, do you feel like they wouldn't believe it because they're not used to that kind of money, or they're not used to you making that kind of money?
I think both. It's one thing I've seen, especially being in Miami, like, and what's crazy is I say this all the time. I think that it isn't really a variable of luck. I think it really is a full variable of decisions, that there is like such fucking like astronomically wealthy individuals. And it's borderline like astonishing to think. I love using Kylie Jenner as an example, that at 19 years old, she could have cashed out, and she still can, over $1 billion.
Wow.
Like, people don't realize that, you know, like entire cities in America, 50,000, 100,000 people, their wealth combined doesn't even come close to that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think a singular human can just legitimately produce tens, if not hundreds of thousands of a human's income. So it's crazy, man. And what's even crazier is how it's so much so in your control.
It really is, you know, and I'm an analytical, statistical guy. And so literally last year, 2023, Miami alone was rated for $438 billion in just the economy.
That's insane.
And you have to figure, when you build a business out here in South Florida,
It's insane.
where is all of that money going really? Because you don't really get a chance to see the people that have these levels of infrastructure. Like before today, I didn't even know who you were, but here you are, like, yo,
It's insane.
I'm doing this at these ages and this and that and whatever. And so, you know, now I want to get into the portion of what did you actually do past the AirPods once you start getting more mature and understanding the structure of a business. What have you done to level out?
100%. Yeah. So I did overall, and I was getting shut down hard by payment processors because FYI, you cannot sell a patented product online. I learned that one the hard way. Apple sent a cease and desist to my doorstep that was distributed by, I don't think it was a lawyer, but it's whoever distributes, like, I don't know what it's called. They pretty much said, like, you've been served almost.
Yeah.
And I remember reading it. It was addressed to my mother too, because I was 17 at the time. And she was the one that was under the business name. I didn't even show her. I didn't tell her for like a year. I just spoke to these lawyers. I remember just like telling them, like, I'm your bitch, like whatever you guys need me to do, just don't sue me. And they just audited everything. I showed them I only had like 50, 60 grand in my bank account. And I think they just saw like I was young. They like left me alone. They just made me close down and delete the Shopify's. But yeah, it was like 3-4 Shopify's. I was really like finessing my way around, and I learned a lot from that. And I can hardcore say, if you feel like you're finessing in any way, it's a very terrible path and it needs to be audited. It's like doing things right isn't hard. And I'm really happy I learned that young, at small amounts of money. I know a lot of friends nowadays, even mutual friends, guys in Miami, they get fucked.
Yeah.
But from there, 17, 18 now, I got into the world of literally just like almost, I call them pump and dump products. Find a product, it sells 50, 100 grand, stop. You'd net 20, 30 grand a store maybe. And I was just literally trying to learn drop shipping. I had a weird period too, from like 17 to 18 years old, where I was a little sad. As it was after the AirPod thing ended, and I was like, what the fuck do I do now? I think people are in like middle grounds, and I wouldn't say midlife crisis, but you segment, you segue from one business to another. And that, idle period's a little odd for some people. Me at 17 to 18 was a little more odd because all my friends are in school. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And it took me a full year. All my friends moved out and they went off to college and shit. And that's when it really hit me that like, there is no path in life for me. I have to determine what I want to do. And at this point, it was me. I made my decisions. And I just said, fuck it. And I moved to Miami. I initially was Airbnb-ing. So I was getting like week to week Airbnbs, South Beach, downtown, really anywhere that would accept me. I was 18, so it was a little hard to get Airbnbs. And just like thinking a lot. I would say like, I'm reading, crafting my craft, but I wasn't. I was just thinking and really just a bit lost. And then it really hit me when I realized I could just start more stores. And then I started another site, which I technically still run now, although I sold a bit of it off equity wise because I couldn't handle it. I started the site selling like a fitness blender, which did very well. Initially that first month I did 131,000, which was ideal because that's when I really got proof of concept that it wasn't that I was getting lucky and making money. It's that I think I realized a formula in every business is to print money, for lack of better words. And I replicated it, and I just really tried to do it hard. I wasn't making crazy money, but I was like really able to start like living. Felt like I could afford my life. I got a Tesla. And I felt like I was financially cruising. I rented an apartment in South Beach. This was my first real lease for 6 months. And then I started doing TikTok. And that was like a major, like, that was just a game changer for me, as it opened another stream of income. When the first person ever that I did like coaching with and training, it was like this young kid. He was like 15. And he texted me just like, yo, can I get in a call with you? I'll pay you $500. I was like, fuck.
Where's he getting that money from?
I don't know. I helped him run it was an AirPods case store, funny enough, because I had only tested probably like 8 products at this point. So I didn't really understand that you could sell tons of different products. I'm still like super new. I was pretty dumb. You know, I'm 18, 19. And I helped him do an AirPod case store. I was just answering his questions. When he paid me, I remember when he Venmoed it to me. And that really hit me hard that someone paid me $500. It took me like an hour. And then I remember Googling a heart surgeon hourly. And I literally thought in my head, like I just made what 8 heart surgeons made in an hour. And that hit me well. And then from there, I went really, really hard on TikTok. Wrapped my Tesla purple. I got in some TikTok beef too, which like, it was so funny. This guy was shitting on me. He thought my Tesla was rented. And I did a response video. It got like 8 million views in a day. That video probably made me like 60 grand.
Damn.
Yeah. Cause I wasn't even really understanding of like what coaching was, but I literally just had a course for $300 in my bio. And it was just like.
And so wait, it made you 60 grand from the leads you got from it, or
it wasn't even like
the ad spend?
I didn't have a sales funnel at all. It was literally, I had a link in bio to like, it was like buy my course. I had like 20, it was a terrible course too back in the day. Like it's night and day from where I'm at now 4 years later, but people liked it. It was $300 too. So what do you expect? And yeah, it was just like volume. A lot of people were like just seeing me. They're like because I had a cool apartment. It was also COVID time. Like if you were in Miami COVID time, man, versus now, dude, you could rent, like I could have rented probably like rent prices, I think literally probably 10x borderline. I was renting a place in Sunny House for $4,000 a month. It was a 3-3 in Trump Tower on the ocean on the 46. It was like 3,000 square feet. So yeah, night and day. And yeah, man, I mean, I was figuring out life. One thing I realized as I'm growing up a bit, I'm 22, but I always tell people, I feel like I'm 28 in business because I started at 16. And I feel like we are all just figuring out life, and it's just who can bullshit their way in a like confidence standpoint more.
22 is crazy. I had to pause myself for a second because we got this whole Diddy thing going on. I was gonna say I want to party with you, but not that.
No, kind of party. Bro, my friends are old. That's the one thing too. Miami, like it's funny. Last week I was with some hedge fund guys in their boat, and it was like one of them was like 45, and I was like, holy shit! Like I feel like my network is getting like old.
But that's a good thing. And so one of the golden questions would be, and I feel like you answered it a little bit, but I want to see how your mindset towards it is. Do you feel like it's more lucrative to build out or build up?
Ooh, interesting question. I think that if you have something that's good, keeping life simple is something that many people can't do. And if you can keep focus and keep simplicity, it's way easier to scale. For me, even this is like later on, but I had an agency I ran, Talk Media. It's still alive today. I had 30% of it still, but I'm not active in it. And that business, we did 2.4 million in like 18 months, all from like cold traffic, hardcore TikTok ads, which was one of the big things that blew up for me. And it was crazy. Like in an age, our margins were probably 70%. I made a lot of money from it. I had a majority ownership initially, and I sold my majority off to my partner who now runs it. And funny enough, I kind of regret it, as it brought a lot of complexity to my life and a lot of stress. And I think that I'd be a lot bigger on social media if I singular or just kept my focus simple on that.
Okay. And so, have you ever had a coach or a mentor?
Yeah, I have right now, funny enough, there's a few guys I consistently pay. Early on, it wasn't as prominent. And like,
what was the first moment where you're like, I'm going to take this amount of money and get a coach?
I had, when I was initially scaling a store, I was really struggling with getting, this is the fitness store. So we did 2 million on that brand. Still have it. I probably netted maybe, it's 3 years now, maybe total like 600, 700K. It's nothing insane, but my biggest ecom brand for sure.
Still 700K, not insane.
Yeah. I'm trying. I still own a good amount of it. I'm trying. My whole thing now is most of my businesses, except for my main coaching business, I want to just have 10, 20% of, and just help them grow and try to get it sellable.
M&A.
But yeah, but, for me, it was really, I don't know. It's hard to look back to.
Okay. So out of all those coaches, I'll rephrase it a little bit. Out of all those coaches, what was the most prominent lesson you learned from one of them?
Oh, 100%. Luca Nets. I was really struggling to get to $1 million saved. I was like, I'll be openly honest about that. I think that people love to talk, but very few people talk about their true money situation. And I've now made life to date, me on this planet, probably like $25 million between everything. And I only became a millionaire like 10, 15 million into it, which I think is like crazy to think about. And it sucked. Especially, I remember there was one time, this isn't even that long ago. This is like February of 2023, last year.
Wow.
I went to the Maldives. One thing about me, I'm an Amex points king. I know Amex points well. So I'm in the Maldives with this girl at the time, and she, forget the girl, it was more so the trip. Trip was great. Spent a lot of points on the trip. And I remember getting back, and I went on the trip because I was really unfocused. Like I felt like I was almost depressed in my business. So I went on the trip to just alleviate some stress and chill, get out of Miami. And I got back, and I remember I was like genuinely like depressed. I was like, fuck, I was losing money. I had just paid a huge tax bill now. It was like February time. And it was my birthday too, which was the weirdest part. It's like a weird time to be sad. I wasn't understanding how to save money, I think. I didn't understand margins. And it's something I realized that when you leave school at 16 and no one really helps you, you don't really understand money well. And Luca Net is a guy that I was lucky enough to meet. We almost fought, funny enough, the first time we met.
Like fist fought?
Like physically fought. We were at an event. And long story short, me and him got into like a altercation. He thought I was doing something I wasn't. Long story short, I look up to this guy so much. He has a NFT project. He's worth like 20, 30 million bucks. Great guy. And I genuinely am like, what the fuck? Why does this guy want to fight me so bad? He was just telling me I'm doing shit. I'm like, I didn't do it. And I told him, I want you to look at my bank account, because if I was doing what he was accusing me of, I would be making a ton of money from it. And we went to the corner of his backyard. I showed him my bank account, and he realized I wasn't doing it. Goes back to this group. By the way, it's a mastermind, like 80 people. I have like 30 people surrounding me. No way I'm tipping. I'm 20 at the time. Average age there is 35. And long story short, he realized he was wrong. He felt bad, and he invited me to dinner. From there, we didn't really talk much, but I offered him, I was like, yo, I want to get on the phone with you. What do you want? And he wanted $2K an hour. Probably paid him like 30 grand at this point. Wow. But he's given me some really valuable lessons. The first one being, when we talked, he was really big. And something I think I've never heard online other than him. He said, I have a leak. I'm like, what do you mean I have a leak? And he was saying I have a leak financially somewhere. And I realized that I'm a big believer in, frankly, throwing money at things. I use money really powerfully. You know, I'm a big believer in money and capital being really the most powerful form of leverage. It's very powerful. There's different key points of leverage, but that is a huge one. And I realized I was doing a little too much. In the extent of, if I had a 100K profit month, I would legitimately be very, very okay spending all 100K back into the business. And it just hurt me. So he was big on that. And I actually read a book right after, Profit First. Fucking crazy book. It pretty much explains that take a percent of revenue as your profit. So instead of looking at profit minus expenses, revenue minus expense equals profit, look at revenue, take 10% for profit, and then the rest is your expenses that you can use. And that was huge for me. So I started taking almost my profit off of the revenue, and then was able to start saving a lot. Watches too, honestly. Funny enough, watches helped me save a lot. I just put 80 grand in a watch. It's like you spend money, but then you can go and like sell it for like 75. So it's been a really good way to make me like feel a little more poor and therefore spend less. Shout out Timepiece, just bought a little bit tech.
See, okay. So that's a good method. The thought process that you have, that you developed, they can come from a lot of different books. I'm in the world of psychology. And so, your situation reminds me a little bit of somebody named Elizabeth Loftus. In the early 1990s, she basically ran psychotherapist tests. And when she would have conversations with people, pretty much they would be like, she would ask certain questions, and how they answered that question would make their reality real. And this is a real thing. And so trauma questions that she asked about substance abuse or not making certain things or getting, molested, things like that, became that person's reality versus somebody else who was in a world of, finances or business or trying to scale their life or whatever, that also became their reality. And so what I want to say that for is, do you feel like you convinced yourself to think about success this way because neither one of your parents really went down this path?
Funny enough, I think my parents were terrible at saving too, which probably was big portion, the whole like hard to profit initially. Not really, man. I think that one thing about me is at least, especially when I was younger, I didn't think too far out. I'm not going to sugarcoat or like lie. I still am really working on trying to think further. It's hard. my whole thing now is I'm trying to really plot and have a hardcore vision to 100 million. That's like what I'm lacking. I feel like I don't fully have it. Funny enough, my whole team flew out tomorrow. We're doing like a huge yacht, and I'm going to share with them the plan I've been, kind of envisioning. But when I was younger, not enough. And I really wish I thought more and I envisioned more, and almost like, I wouldn't say psyched myself into it, but almost like manifested it. I think it's powerful. And I've realized a lot of people, I feel like you respect it and understand it, but a lot of people almost view like manifestation as cheesy.
No.
And it's crazy. Like people like almost just either don't believe it or like hate the word. And the way I look at it is like, understand your plan, understand what you want and how you're going to get it. That way you can wake up and do it, rather than wake up, be foggy, go fucking scroll on your phone, do whatever the fuck, a normal person does. Once you have a plan, I think it gets very fun to pursue it.
No, absolutely. Manifestation is like the newer age word for what psychologists have been doing for a long time.
Yeah,
where
facts.
it's actually mental. Your subconscious is that actually, that powerful. And so, what I want to add on top of that is, how do you navigate your business? And so what would you define as your structure? Like, how do you start and how do you scale and
100%.
then multiply that?
I'm a one of the biggest advocates for the idea of replication. I think too many people, especially if you're trying to get to under 10 million, like any amount, starting a business is guaranteed, but until you're at $10 million in lifetime revenue, there's literally nothing you have to reinvent. Everything you should be doing should be replicating businesses that have done exactly that. I think what's super funny, and I train a good amount of people now. I've spoken at a few events at this point, and what's so crazy to me is how many people think they have to, like, for lack of better words, decide. Like, I literally won't even answer people on some questions because I'm like, I could answer it, or I could just tell you, go look at a competitor that will answer it better. So I think if I was starting anything, I would ideally have someone around me that has done it. That's the idea of mentoring, coaching. Like, again, it's another thing. People hate the word. They think it's cheesy. I'm not paying someone, scammer. Like, fuck all of that. Either you can go at it yourself or go at it with someone next to you that's done it. It's like, it's a no-brainer. And in addition to that, copy hard, copycat, but copy the right cat. And I think if you do that, man, it's not even a question on if you do well, it's when. That's powerful.
I like, you got some gems. You got some bars right there. 22 spitting game. And so when you have like an investment in a coach or something, say you invest $5,000 or $30,000 that you said you invested in the other guy.
I just spent $40,000 with Cardone. I'm going next week. Yeah, I forgot to
Say you
mention
invest
that.
$40,000. What do you expect as an ROI from that amount? And how do you gauge that?
That's a fire question. I think once you have a business that's pretty, like, genuinely right now, between everything, like, if I did under $1 million a month, it wouldn't make sense. And that's just genuinely like a data tracking and like KPI basis. It's something would have to really go bad between everything. So my perspective is, for me, it's like, for Cardone to give me a gem of a 4% increase is almost guaranteed. Not to mention that'd be monthly. Like, I always tell people, everyone pays taxes. If you flip burgers at McDonald's, you're making $36,000 a year. So times that by 50 years, you're going to probably pay close to $1 million in taxes. It's a fact. Tax-Free Wealth, great book. Tell me we're right. Read that book. Guarantee you save 25%. That's a $70,000 an hour task. Yet 99% of the people who just heard that won't do it. So I think that you can get really valuable information, but it's how you use it. And once you're already making money, it's a lot easier to use it. So I think, especially for coaching, the ROI I see is fully in my hands. I'll never ask for a guarantee. The idea of a refund, it's not possible. I know I can learn from these guys. Cardone's doing $1 billion a year. I think when you're first starting out, it's important to go to people who know that world, and don't go to someone who's used to training business owners that are already doing well. Go to someone who really you think understands you, and take your time. Think about it, sleep on it. When I was younger, I used to never think about decisions. Like, one of my biggest things, especially this year, moving on, like, I think about things. I'm moving to Puerto Rico now for taxes. I just got fucking.
I was just about to say, you're leaving.
I got bent over, man, by the fucking tax man a few months ago, and yeah, I'm making that move mainly because I could fly too. I like the little flight back and forth, but I don't know. I think, like, it's in everyone's hands, man. It's like it's right there, but people just can't grab it. They're getting distracted.
Absolutely. And so, we reached the part of the podcast where we call this gem drops. And so this is an unfiltered, because how much does your mentorship cost?
So we have a lot of offers. Core offers like 4,800.
4,800 for the entire thing. How long is that?
Yeah, they get a lot. I bring people in. I've had people in for years with me.
Okay, cool. So we are going to give them the intro step as if they paid that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to walk us through on here live, because if they make it 30 minutes into the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
hey, they deserve this. You know what I'm
Hell
saying?
yeah. No, I love that.
It's attention span. And so how will you help somebody start and scale their business?
Funny enough, and I love that question because it relates really well to a core, I think, building block that I explained to people I didn't have when I started, that everyone needs when they start. And the first course I put people through is, I call it God mode. I'm semi-religious, and I always tell people, like, you have to become second to God on a discipline and almost monk-like level. And I force every student. Funny enough, people who I've realized are just borderline flat out retarded, I've kicked out and refunded just because I'm like, there's no fucking way I can deal with this. I force people to go through it. And I do that because if you aren't built to win, there's nothing I can tell someone. There's no skill I can teach someone. And there's nothing that you're going to do. It's just some people aren't able to win. They're not built for it. And you can train your body. You can train your mind, yourself. And that's what God mode covers. And going into it, the main things I cover is like self-discipline, being able to, one thing that's so funny to me is like going to the gym. Everyone in this room, probably 90% of people watching this, if not, I hope a little higher, have been to the gym. Then it's like, everyone would agree you should go to the gym every day. But what percent of the population does that? I think it's 44% is regularly in the gym. I think they define it as 3 times a week. Like, dude, just going to the gym every day, you're beating 90% of the population. And those little wins stack. So what I explain to people is, you don't have to be fucking perfect. I fuck around here and there. I live a semi-normal life, but what I teach in God mode is the sickest of the sick type of work mode. It's just a way in which you beat everyone. And that resonates really well with me. Alex Becker is someone I look up to a lot. I sat with him in Monaco a bit. And he was one of the sickest men I've met in a work sense. And it's not for everyone, but I think it's, statistically speaking, if you can work faster and harder than anyone, the odds of you succeeding and hitting your goals are extremely high. I don't know about you guys. I'd rather a 90% chance of success than 50. And if you can control that as a human, you should. So I teach everyone that first before I even talk about business, which is funny. And I can tell you what to do after that if you want, but it's mainly them. I really work on them, and I'll force people to go through it. Change. I'll force them to change.
No, that's wonderful. I really like that concept. I would love to go in on that, but I do want you to explain, like, after God mode, for those who make it through that, what is the mindset shift that happens?
Yeah. I think people realize it's not hard. I was on a podcast last week, and the guy behind the scenes who was shooting, the guy behind the cameras, he said something that hit me really hard. Probably the most memorable line I've heard from someone in the last year. And what he told me was, at the end of the pod, cameras go off, and he looked at me and said, or I said to him, like, because we were talking about making money, and I was like, making money's so easy. And he looked at me and he said, it's not easy, it's easy for you. And I thought about it, because that already hit me pretty hard. And I thought about it for a few days. And then I was debating if it was either really hard for him or easy for me. And then I realized hard and easy are a perspective. And fundamentally, if me at 22 was able to make fun, there's no reason for me to lie about this. I could say I made $1 million. People would still respect me. I've made over $20 million working the last 6 years. And I'm not any better than anyone here. I didn't have any head start. I had a roof, I had food, but I did it. It wasn't that difficult. And anyone who thinks it's difficult just hasn't really tried. And that hit me really hard.
No, that's always that. I feel like that's always going to be a perspective battle, because at the end of the day, our minds are framed to our reality. We literally create reality around us. And so we could live and exist in the same space, and our realities be completely different, even though we abide by the same laws, because mental laws are different from physical laws. And what people have to understand is that when life comes at you, you have a flight or fight response. And this flight or flight response happens not only physically, but it happens mentally. And so the mental side of it is where they're going to go from a comfortability space. And so facing adversity or fuck it mode, you know, and they say a lot of people who curse, a lot of people who actually go in actually break that filter a lot more because they don't care. And this happens with a lot of people that are upfront. And so
Yeah,
even
I'm
you
vulgar.
saying like, yo,
I'm vulgar, dude.
I'm this and that and whatever, it already shows in your personality.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna go get this one way or another. I don't care if
Dude, we have some fucking like there's some pussies sometimes. And I'm like, I'm hardcore on it. It's just facts. Like there's some just pussies that try to join my shit. And I'll just fully like, cause I'm so like I'm intense. I just say some fucked up shit. They just genuinely, they'll like be like, this is too fucked up for me. I'll be like, just cool, like dip. Anyone, God forbid, a 45 plus like mom, they join here and there. Oh my God. They're like, who raised you? They're like, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, I'm just a motherfucker, man. But yeah, that's my thing, dude. I just live. I think I'm really blessed. I'm 22. There's so much more of life I have to accomplish and conquer. And as we all are, I'm figuring it the fuck out.
No, absolutely. Okay. So I want to throw something at you. If you had $100, you ever seen Undercover Billionaire? I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had $100. They drop you in a state where you don't know shit. Nobody knows you. What do you do?
Do I still have my skill set? Am I the same person?
Yeah, same person.
Sales instantly. I'd find someone selling something, probably car dealership.
Okay.
I would just walk into the manager's office, be like, look, give me 24 hours and try to prove myself there. If I fucked up, I would just go to every car dealership in the city. I think
24 hours to do what?
24 hours to sell a car.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be a G at selling cars. Yeah, I think that'd be the easiest. You make good commission selling cars. Most car salesmen suck. Low level sales, just because when you get good at selling cars, you'd move up to something bigger. Yeah, that would fucking crush. Probably make 50. I mean, how long?
60 days.
Ooh. I'd probably in this day and age, like 2024 this time, I'd probably make 10, 20 grand. Then I'd probably try to push money into flipping crypto, full gambling. I think that'd probably be a 50-50 at getting to like 50, 100K or nothing. If I got to nothing, I'd probably try the car selling thing and I'd obviously have a lot less money. The end of the 60 days, I'd have a lot less. But if it hits, I get to 100. Ooh, what would I do with 100? Nothing with social media. Social media takes longer. I think max I'd have is $250,000. I'm not going to bullshit. I think I'd be able to maybe take the 100, either stock trade and continue with crypto, or I'd probably move into some like low level crypto or stock trading group, especially if I was hitting in my crypto plays. Oh yeah, that's what I would do. If I turn 20 to 100, instantly paid ads, crypto chat room, 20 a month. Hey, I just turned 20K to 100. So it's shit like that.
And now how much does that change if you add an extra 30 days to that?
Oh, astronomically. Time. One thing I've realized too, I didn't know this when I was young. And funny enough, I've realized everyone thinks they're old. Everyone thinks they're old. It's so crazy to think about. No one talks about it. And it hit me when I'm at an event in person and there was a lot of like the age gap was insane. And one mom had her kid and her husband. And this wasn't my event, but I said to the kid, he was 10. And I remember I was talking to him. He was a cute little kid. And I said to him like, dude, you have so much life to live. And the mom, she's like 40 probably. She looked at me. She's like, dude, you're 22. You have so much life to live. And then her husband's like 55. Same thing. And I was like, holy shit. Everyone thinks they're old. And then you realize like everyone has so little time theoretically to live in their perspective, but you only have as much time as you have. So one thing I've realized, and with that, it feeds into that whole point, is time is, I think, the biggest factor ever. I have like a famous thing I say to people all the time. I think Warren Buffett, I hate him. I hate him.
What?
And I think it's because everyone glorifies Warren Buffett. I just think it's like so simple how he made money. He lived a terrible life, didn't spend any money, and invested everything. Like crazy to make 7% a year. That's like the average return on any average stock ever. And he just lived like, frankly, a terrible life. Kudos to him. He genuinely did just create generational wealth, and he's going to donate a ton. So it's beautiful, but it wasn't skillful. And that's another example. Like it's not difficult. You can have a job paying 150K a year. I don't even know what like the average, I think out of college, average income's like 80, 90 grand. You'll bonus up to 130. Dude, you're making over 50 years. What is that? 6, 7, 8 million? Save 70% of it, live a shitty life. Boom. Invest it all. You have 30, 40 million when you die. The issue is people can't do that. So yeah, time's huge. Time compounds well.
Wow. And so the last part that I want to get into is the dissection of your team, because you can't do it alone, and you only have 24 hours in a day. And so now that you've gone into your industry, scaled it up, done whatever, blah, 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 how do you get yourself out?
It's funny. I was on a date with my girlfriend. Actually, we were talking about this. Actually, yeah, I think it was with you. I I got asked at least. No, it was definitely, it was either you or like a guy I was out with. No. Fundamentally, I forget who I was having the conversation with. No, I'm loyal to her. She's great. The combo though was, who was your first hire and how did you find them? Honestly, I really do forget who I had the conversation with, but it's pretty much, how did you? Oh no, I think it was on a podcast. It was, how did you find your first hire? And I think everyone thinks you have to look for your first hire, and in my eyes, your first hire is going to come to you. And I think that's really powerful. It'll just happen. Like, it'll naturally happen. For me, it was like friends when I started making money. My first hire ever was now my assistant. Her name's Jolie. She grew up with me since I was 3 years old. When my AirPod store was blowing up, I needed someone to fulfill the orders and do customer support. And she was like, I'm down. I was paying like 20 cents an order. It was like nothing. And yeah, from there it moved on. I had her for a while. When I got into anything customer support, she did all my customer support for a few years. And then 19 and 20, once I started doing courses, I quickly got out of courses because that big hate video. So it made me a ton, but like, I was getting so much shit for courses, man, especially on TikTok. It was like too much for me. The money was good, but it was too powerful. Obviously, I wanted to continue doing it. Everyone knows online education is a great space. It's awesome. It makes a lot of money too if you do it right. I pivoted into out of coaching or out of courses and into, I called it my mentorship. And I realized just that word change, it's really funny too. You guys will realize Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi are two of the biggest coaches ever in my view book that did it without getting hate, or at least a lot of hate. And it's really intriguing. There's also that I hate this guy too, Dave Ramsey. Hate him. Man, I hate him. He's against debt. I hate that. But that's a topic for another day. Him and Buffett, man. The fact is though, is they did it without hate, which is very intriguing. And so I got out of courses pretty early, but my next hire there was salespeople with the mentorship. I had so many people DMing me. We did that hate video with the 8 million views. We did 12,000 inbound Instagram DMs in one day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look for your team and you're trying to scale your team up, and if you're even going to sell your company, you know, what kind of state do you have to have your company in to be like, yeah, this is ready to sell off?
Oh, it's hard, dude. Especially with, so the biggest, at least exit I've gotten was Talk Media. That was my agency. And I sold it to my partner. So it's kind of like a private-ish sale.
Okay.
One thing I think people don't talk about, especially if you're under like 10 million a year profit, selling your fucking brand is like selling a friggin' car. It's like hard. And it's not just hard, but you literally have to sell it. Like, you're getting on a call, the guy doesn't care. And he just like, you have to sell that this is a good investment for him. I think a lot of people just think like, sell your business, get 50 million. It's not that simple. We talked to so many buyers for talk. The whole thing with my partner was we ended at the convo of, I didn't want to be a part of it, but I was down to help grow it. It's actually where I got the idea of like, hey, I should start having companies in a portfolio rather than trying to build a bunch of businesses myself. But yeah, that was, we were doing what? I mean, we did 2.2 million at the time of me leaving. Our highest month there was like 300,000 top line. Now they're doing that like consistently. So yeah, I mean, that crushed. I think realistically, any business is judged based off net profit. A lot of times they say EBITDA, same shit. 1 million to 10 million a year, I think, is where you're like really sellable. It also can't, there's certain variables, like key man risk is a huge one. If there's a certain, like any coaching business ever that has a face on it, like, you're fucked. Cardone did a really good job in that. Like, Cardone is the man to study if you're a coach. Like, that's another thing I find so funny is like, people will go and think to buy courses before studying competition. Like, it's insane to me. But yeah, Cardone's great to study. He did they're doing $1 billion a year, and most of it's not actually from like his name. A lot of it now is Brandon Dawson. I had the pleasure of speaking with him one-on-one. Like, they have 10x insurance, 10x health. They're selling friggin' $100,000 LED beds. You know, these brands easily, they're going to probably sell everything for, in my eyes, probably 50, 100 billion. It's going to happen.
Wow. No, Jake, this was crazy. This was, you know, learning the mindset, the structure, the organization, the fuck it, the everything of, you know, a 22-year-old millionaire. That's, you know, kudos to you, man. You know,
Appreciate
you definitely have that path, and you can see that you're invested in passion about it. And so now this is completely up to you.
What's up?
Completely up to you. But what we normally do,
What, show the bank account?
No.
Oh,
No.
I was ready.
I see. So receipts are good, but no. If you have a course,
I don't plug, bro. I don't plug.
You don't vlog?
No, I don't plug. One thing about me with coaching is I don't really like promote it in a direct manner.
Yeah, that's fine. But do you have a course?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot.
Are you willing to give away a course to somebody who's in the
Oh,
viewership?
100%. Yeah.
And so, listen, Jake is going to give away 2 courses
Fuck yeah.
to us when you pop up a screen. When we pop up something on the screen, it'll be somewhere in the podcast. So if you do see it, we'll send them like a code or something.
100%.
Or have something
Yeah.
there for them.
When this goes live, we'll do something crazy. I'll make sure it's good.
Okay, cool. Say, look, listen, this is how we try to give value back to the guests, because a lot of people here are starting off their businesses and trying to get to the next level. And one of the biggest excuses is, I never get any help. And so when we provide help in a certain type of way, that's why we call it attractive mindset. You know, the law of attraction, what you put out there is what you get back. And so we are literally in positions to give to people. And, you know, at this point, we can give a course or two to somebody.
Let's do this. First person to comment a word. You pick the word.
There we go. First person
Can't be any of them.
No, not these guys. But
what word? Let's do unicorn.
Unicorn.
First person to comment unicorn.
Listen, Jake, this has been amazing. You know, if people wanted to learn more from you, follow you, you know, go to the Maldives with you, whatever, you know, where can they find you at?
Easiest place, TikTok. Make money with Jacob.
Make money with Jacob. Listen, man, you know, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Attractive Mindset. We have a exclusive mastermind here, and trust me, you want to dive more, learn about him, tune in. Make sure you like, subscribe, you know, share this with a friend. This is powerful information, and it's your host, Moneybag Rich. And as we always say, we look good, we live good, life is good, and we out of here.